Welcome back to LarryB YouTube channel. In today's class, we'll be learning how to make this off-shoulder bustier pattern. So this is the front and this is the back pattern. And also in this class, we'll be learning how to draft an off-shoulder sleeve. So this is the sleeve pattern. So we're using the easiest method to draft this, and it is very beginner friendly. If this is what you like to learn, kindly stay tuned to the end of this tutorial. Thank you. So for this, we'll be using this measurement. The armhole we're working with is 9 inches. That's 18 inches. So if we divide it by 2, we get 9 inches. The chest line. So the chest line measurement is the measurement from one where your armhole stops on the chest area to the other. It's not going to get to the... Okay, so now don't mind my drawing. So the chest line measurement is from where your armhole. Remember, this is the armhole here and here. So it's from here to here. It's not going to enter into your arm or your armhole. So measurements from this area where that curve is around the breast area, from that place to this place, that is your chest measurement, and it is very important in shaping the neckline of an off-shoulder bustier blouse. So for this, I'll be working with 14 inches. That's the measurement that I have. The bust point is 10. The bust measurement is 36. That's the bust circumference. The under bust measurement is 13.5. Half length is 16. Waist is 30. And the hip line, that's where the blouse will stop. That's 23. And the hip measurement is 40. So the first thing I'll be doing now is to take all these measurements, the vertical measurement. So this is an off shoulder, and I'll be going off by 5 inches. So you can also go up by 6 inches. I normally go up by 6 inches sometimes, but 5 inches is fine for me for this tutorial. So I'll be placing my tape. You can see the way I'm placing it. This is my starting point. So I actually went off by 5 inches before placing the tape rule, and then I'll start taking this measurement. So the first measurement I'll be taking now is my armhole measurement, which is 9 inches, which is around here. And then the next measurement is my bust point, which is 10 inches, which is also around here. Then the next one is the under bust, which is 13.5, which is here. The next measurement is the waist measurement, which is 16 inches, which is here. And then the next one we're going to be taking is our full blouse length measurement, which is 23 inches, and then I'll be adding 1 inch allowance to this. So I'll make all this into a straight line, then we'll continue. Okay, so the points are marked now and labeled. So the next measurement I'll be taking is my bust span measurement. That's the measurement I need to draft the bustier that. So the bust span measurement I'm working with is 8 inches. That's from one nipple to other. And you divide that by 4 because this is a half scale. This is just one side of the front, the other side is this, and I'm folding it into 2. But if you are drafting on the paper, you don't need to fold into 2. You can just do one. Then when you're cutting it on your fabric, you know that this part has to be on fold so that you don't just waste your paper. But because I want us to see this by the time I finish, that's why I decided to fold this paper into 2. So now that bust span measurement, I'm going to take it like this. So I have 4 inches there. I have 4 inches here. I'm just going to take it all around now and then make this into a straight line. So now, depending on how busty the person you are working with is or the cup size that you want to form, we're going to be taking our dart. So on our waistline here, I'm going to be taking a dart of 2 inches. So now these 2 inches, you can either take it on one side, you can actually take it to this side, or you share it 1 inch here, 1 inch here, or you just take maybe half an inch here and 1.5 inches, depending on how you want to share it. But for it to be very easy to sew for you, especially for a beginner, if you are taking the same thing on both sides, it means you have something symmetrical, which means what you have on this side will be exactly the same to what you have on this side, which will make it easier for you to sew. So because of that, the 2 inches that I'll be sharing it equally, then I can see how I'm placing my tape rule. So on this side I'll mark 1 inch, and on this side I'll also mark 1 inch. So this dart that I took here, I'm going to take it on my under bust also. Here I have marked 1 inch. Here I'm going to mark 1 inch also, and then I'll make this into a straight line like this. So next thing is to go over to my blouse length, and then on my blouse length I'll go up by 2 inches or 1.5 inches, which is this, and then I'm going to be connecting this from my dart leg to my bust point. Okay, so now we are done with the lower part of our dart. The next thing is to connect this dart to our bust point. So to avoid pointy area on the bust, I'm not going to be connecting directly on the bust. I'll just go down by half an inch, which is this. Then from that half an inch now, I'll take my curve and connect this to what I have here on the under bust. So I've connected this. I'll do the same thing for this other side also. I'm going to place it like this now and then connect it to this. So you can see that I have exactly the same thing on both sides. So now the next thing, to tighten our chest area here, I'm going to be taking a dart off. You can take 1 inch dart, but I'll just be taking 3/4 of an inch on both sides. So I'm taking 3/4 of an inch here, and also here I'm going to take 3/4 of an inch. And like I did for this also, from the bust point area, I'm going to go up by half an inch, and then I'm going to take my slightly curved ruler so that I can have something really smooth, and then I'm going to connect it like this, and also on the other side like this. Okay, so you can see how simple it is to make this. I'm done taking my darts now, and then the next thing I'll do now is to start taking my circumference measurement. So the first thing I'll do now is to take the neckline measurement, which I'm going to be using this chest measurement. So I have 14 inches here, and 14 inches is for the full front, so divided by 2, I'm going to be having 7 inches. So to take this measurement now, from my center front, I'll measure what I have, and I have 3/4. So I'll take my tape. Remember all this. So let me just shade this off. All this darts now, we're going to be taking it off. So now if I have 3/4 here, I'm just going to take my tape rule and move it to the next point, because this is going up and I don't want it to be a shortage for me. So I'll complete my 7 inches measurement, which is this. On the armhole area, I'm going to be taking the bust measurement, and the bust I'm working with is 36. 36 inches divided by 4 is going to give me 9 inches. So here I'm going to be measuring that 9 inches, and then I had 1.5 inches allowance to that. So that's giving me 10.5 there. So on my under bust area, on my waist area, I have 30 inches as my waist circumference. So 30 divided by 4 is going to give me 7.5. So here I'll measure what I have here, and here I have 3 inches. So I'll take my tape rule now and then move to the second dart leg, omitting this because it is going up. Then I'll complete the 7.5 inches measurement, and then add whatever allowance I want to add to this also. And then on the blouse, on the full length measurement, my hip measurement is 40 inches divided by 4 is going to give me 10 inches. So I'm going to measure that 10 inches there also, and then add whatever allowance that I wish to add to this. Okay, so I'll take that measurement downwards also, and then we're going to connect all this together. So now, using the slightly curved part of my ruler, I'm going to be connecting from the upper part to the waist, and then from there now to the lower part, making sure that we don't have any sharp edges. So you can see what I have there, and this already have an allowance. So this is the actual measurement that I'm working with. So here is 9 inches, okay, which is here. Then I'm connecting this separately so that we can see the difference. Okay. Okay. So now on the hemline here, now you can just go up by around 2 inches here. Okay. And then from there now you connect it to your center front. So there's this design that this gives. It just lifts the bust, the blouse, or the side area, and it makes it finer than just leaving it flat like that. So now we're almost through. The next thing now is to connect from our chest line here to the armhole for our armhole curve. So now, using this curved ruler, I'm just going to be connecting it like this, and then I have my front bodice drafted already. So now it depends on what you want. You can actually draft your neckline measurement here now, or you leave it till when you join it and then draft it. So if you want to draft like a sweetheart neckline, remember you have already gone up by 5 inches, so you should be careful to know how deep you want to go. So from here now you can just go downwards by maybe 6 and a half inches. So let's say we are using 6.5 inches. You have it there. Then you take your curved ruler, and then you join it from here to the first dart leg to form your sweetheart curve. Okay, which is this. And if you want to form a U curve, you connect it. So let me use a black marker for this, in a U form like this. From there you connect it to that point, whichever neckline it is that you wish to go for. So now we're going to cut this off now, and then we'll move over to the back for this. Okay, so this is what we have when you cut this out now, and when you open it up, so this is what the pattern is looking like. You can see. So like I was saying, it is easier for you to cut it out when you to sew it when you share your darts on both sides, because if you just put this together on each other now, you will see that they are exactly identical. You can see that they fit perfectly, so you just easily sew it with maybe half an inch or whatever it is that you sew it with. But if we share the dart, it's not going to be exactly the same, so it may involve that you keep pushing, you lift it up and then trace it around with your hand. Okay, so drafting the back is quite simple compared to the front. We have our armhole line here, and then I just place my drapery the same way I did for the front. I want up by 5 inches, and then this is my armhole line, the waistline, and then the hip line, the blouse length, and the allowance. So here I measured 1 inch for my zipper allowance on the back, but normally for tightening on the back, so that I don't have any gaping around here, I like to tighten my back on the waist area. So here you can just go inwards by half an inch or 1 inch or 3/4 of an inch on the waistline. So here I'm going to connect it like that. Then you take like a dart. From there you connect it to the upper part like this, and then from there again I'm going to connect it to the lower part. This is because if you look at the back shape, at the waistline on the back area, there is this hollow that is just bent inwards like this. It's not as straight as what we have here. It just goes inward like that. So if you make it this straight, by the time you fix your zipper, you see this small allowance that you took here, it will make your zipper to be bulging out at the back. That was why we take that. So which means that this now is no longer our dart allowance, and I need to adjust my dart allowance. So here now my new zipper allowance will be from here. Then here I'll measure 1 inch outwards, because I use 1 inch from my zipper allowance, and here also I'll measure another 1 inch. So now I'll reconnect my zipper allowance like this, and then like this. Okay, so now this new line that we just drew is my zipper allowance. So this is actually very important. Okay, so now we can continue with our drafting. So from the upper part here, I'm going to be taking my nipple to nipple measurement, just like I did for the front, and then I'll move that into a straight line. Okay, so now for the dart, I'll be taking half inch on the waistline. So I'll take half an inch here, then I'll connect it to the chest line, which is also the armhole, and then here also I'll connect it to the armhole line, and then here I'll go upwards by 2 inches or half an inch, or whatever it is I want to go up with, or 1.5, sorry, and then from there I'll connect it to my dart leg on the waistline like this. Okay, so the dart is taken care of. The next thing is for us to take our circumference measurement. So just like I did for the first one, I'm taking 7 inches here, which I got by dividing my chest line of 14 inches by 2. On the armhole area, I'm going to take my bust measurement, which is 9 inches here, and then I had an allowance of 1.5 inch. Okay, so here I'm taking my waist measurement, which is 30 divided by 4, which gave me 7.5. So I have 3 inches here. Then I'll move this now and continue my 7.5, which is here. Then I'll take my allowance of 1.5 inch also, or whatever allowance that you want to use. Then on the hip line, I'll take my hip measurement of 40 inches divided by 10, which is going to divide by 4, which is going to give me 10 inches, excuse me. And then here I'm going to add an allowance of 1.5 inch also. Okay, so now just like I did for the front, I'm going to connect this now. So from my bust to my waist, and then from waist I'll connect it to the hip line, and then connect the same thing now for my allowance. So you can actually add allowance when you're transferring this to your fabric, or you just add it directly on your pattern. So here from the hem line I'll go up by 2 inches, the same thing I did for the front, and then from there I'm going to connect it to the lower part like this, because I like the fit that this gives at the lower area. So now on the upper part, remember I've taken my chest line measurement here. So using my curved ruler, I'm going to connect my armhole curve like this. And then for the neckline, you choose whatever neckline you want, but usually the back neckline is usually low. So from here now, from the 5 inches, you can go as low as you can even maintain your armhole line, which is 8 inches. And then from there, you can connect it to your chest line here. But I just advise that so that this place is going to match, you can just join it first before you shape out your armhole. So now once we have this now, we're going to cut this out also, and then we'll work on the sleeve. Okay, so now I've cut this out now. You can see I've shaped my zipper allowance. You can see how it enters from the waist. So for the back, you can actually cut this on your fabric directly like this and take your dart, or you just slash it open just like we did for the front there, but it's not compulsory for the back. You can just cut one piece like this on your fabric, and then you take your dart, or you just slash your dart open just like what I have done here. You slash the dart open, and then you have 2 different pieces for each side of the back. That will make 4 pieces for the back, because we have already slashed it open at the center back area for the zipper allowance. Okay. So these are our patterns. This dart is going up. These are our patterns for the back. Okay. So you can see that the back, center back, is no longer straight. You can see this space that we have here. So now I'll put this back aside now, and then we'll work on the sleeve. Okay, so for the sleeve, I'll put the pattern unfold into 2 like this, and the measurements I'll be working with here is my armhole measurement. So the armhole I'm working with is 18 inches, like I said. Divided by 2 gave me 9 inches. So I'm going to be adding 1 inch seam allowance to that, and that's going to give me 10 inches. So I'll mark my 10 inches here. And then the length of the sleeve that I'm working with is 8 inches. So I have 8 inches here, and then including my zipper allowance, my seam allowance, I'm going to be adding 1 inch extra to it, which makes it 9 inches. So here also, I'm going to mark my 9 inches so that I can have a straight line. So once I have that, I'll take my straight ruler and then connect this, and then connect this also, and then I'll mark the 10 inches, which is also my actual measurement, so that I'll have a perfect measurement. So this is at my actual armhole measurement, which is 10 inches. So I have a box of 10 inches by 9 inches. So 10 inches like this by 9 inches, including allowance. So this is all I need to work with. I can cut off the excess fabric, the excess paper, so that we will not be distracted. Okay. Okay, so this is the paper that I need to work with now. So before I start, I'm just going to fold in my seam allowance of 1 inch for my sleeve. You'll see why we are folding it by the time we are done drafting it, before I start to draft. So now that I've folded it in, I have 10 inches by 8 inches right now. So now on the upper part here, remember I went up by 5 inches. So here I'm going to be marking 5 inches from this fold point. Okay, you can add an allowance, and if you don't want it too off, you can even have 4 inches, because this is going to help you drag this the bustier upwards so that the cleavage will not be showing too much. So I have 5 inches there, including allowance. And the next thing is to measure your calf's height. So here, if the person is really busty, you can just do 3.5 or 4 inches. If it's for a slim person, you can do 3 inches. But I'll be doing 3.5 inches, which is here. And then from there, now I'm going to be drawing my armhole curve using this slightly curved side of my ruler. And then I'm going to connect it like this, so you can see what I've connected. So on the hemline here of the sleeve, you measure your round sleeve measurement, and the round sleeve measurement I'm working with here is 7 inches plus 1 inch seam allowance. That's going to give me 8 inches. And then from there, I'm going to take my ruler and connect it to my underarm, which is here. And then that is all you need to do. So now, because I've been having these questions a lot from beginners, so this is the simplest way you can actually draft an off-shoulder pattern with sleeve. So there are more complicated ways in which you introduce a bust dart, which you're going to be closing or transferring to. You can actually transfer that to anywhere, but I just thought to show us this method of drafting this simple way, especially for beginners. So once you draft it, this is what your sleeve is looking like. But for me, I don't like this place to be too sharp, so most times I just give it a slight curve around this place. So from here, you can just curve it a bit, but this is actually not compulsory. But I do this sometimes so that I have something a bit curved there. So this is what our sleeve is looking like, and this is the allowance that we folded inward. So you can see the reason why we folded our allowance, because by the time we cut it out, you can see this shape. Assuming I did not fold it, I would have just cut it like this, and by the time I want to hem in my allowance and I fold it, it will be shortened this. It will be shortened by this measurement. So it's better to fold in your allowance before you draft. So this is our off-shoulder pattern. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. If you enjoyed it, let us know in the comment section. Like, comment and subscribe to our channel, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.